Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcox Media.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Greg Jones for Engine Builder, and welcome to another episode of Industry Insiders. Today, my guest is Chuck Barnett, CEO of Dura-Bond Bearing. Chuck, pleasure to see you. Thanks for coming in the studio today.
Thank you.
Chuck, we wanted to talk a little bit about your background in this industry and, even maybe some times before you got into this industry, as well as a lot of what's going on at Dura-Bond these days, because you guys have traditionally been a cam bearing company over the years, but in more recent years, you guys have been doing some new things, so we want to get into some of that. And like I said, a lot of folks are going to know you from cam bearing business and what you've been doing over the years at Dura-Bond. But let's talk a little bit about your life before that. You've been in this industry for over 50 years. Talk a little bit about some of those past roles that you've had.
Well, thank you again for having me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it very much. You guys do a wonderful job, and you do great for the industry and for all the people about.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So, for me, I started out as a kid growing up in Seattle, and I went to school there. Then I went into the Navy. I was in Naval Air, was on 4 different aircraft carriers in Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
And that was interesting, a time going on and off those.
Sure.
After that, I was able to take the Vietnam Veterans Bill and go to college, Jesuit College in Seattle. And from there, times were a little tough in Seattle trying to get a job, because they had a thing that said, last person out of Seattle turned the lights out. So it was tough. So I went to 4 different places to try to find a job constantly. General Motors, Ford, Union Oil, and those ones I went every week. You got a job, got a job, got a job.
Yeah.
And finally, I was able to get a job with, at that time it was called United Motor Service, which became Delco, which became AC Delco.
Yeah.
And I worked for them for 17 years in Seattle, and then in New York, and then in Los Angeles for the West Coast. Then I was recruited to go to work for Peterbilt Kenworth Trucks, PACCAR, back in Seattle, and as a general sales manager for North America for Peterbilt Kenworth Trucks. And so I did that for a while, and then I was recruited to come to Dura-Bond.
Very good.
And that was 28 years ago.
Yeah, so I want to say, first of all, thank you for your service, back in Vietnam. And, it's funny, I spent a year in Seattle when I was a baby. I was 1 year old, was there for a year, so I got that in common. I don't remember any of that.
Yeah, right.
But my parents always talk highly about the Seattle area.
Yeah.
So that's very cool.
So there's lots of good places around the country. Every place has good things going for it, or people wouldn't live there. And so I was fortunate to be able to travel that with my wife and my daughter. Mm-hmm. And my daughter is a concierge doctor in Reno, Nevada.
Okay.
And so we have a close relationship, only child. And so it's good. It's good to be in Carson City. She lives in Reno, so that's handy for me.
Yeah, not too far from you in Carson City. Yeah, excellent. Chuck, I wanted to ask, what do you love most about this industry, and has it changed over the course of 50 plus years of being in the industry? Was that answer different then versus maybe what it is today?
I think the best thing of the industry is the people, of course, and the people are very accommodating. I have a passion for cars. I have several old cars myself. I have an old Packard and a couple old Chevys and
nice.
Porsche, and so I always had a passion for that from the time I was a kid, and so that's fun. But people always are very welcoming and very engaged. It's an interesting industry because it's ever changing, and you've got great people that are within it. I've been associated with Babcox for 28 years, and they've done a great job for us. And I have some more things I'd like to speak about as we go further a little bit. But for Dura-Bond, it's been a challenging. When I first got to Dura-Bond, I had just 80-90% of our business was just in cam bearings.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's highly risky. And I had it with a few customers. that was highly risky. So I had to venture out and get warehouses in different places and reps different places and get new things going for us. And so today, cam bearings are about 59% of our business. Still huge volume, but it's diverse now. So I call it kind of the peacock effect. The peacock effect says I'm going to have multiple different product lines, so I'm not at risk, multiple different customers, so I'm not at risk. And so we do a great job with all the engine builders and with now transmission companies as well.
We'll get deeper into that in a second here. Chuck, I wanted to just elaborate on, you going from your automotive background into the role here at Dura-Bond. And forgive me for not knowing, but did you come in as CEO, or did you have different roles at Dura-Bond over the years?
I came in as president of Dura-Bond.
Okay.
And it's interesting. We were owned by some partners out of Philadelphia, father and son that hired me, and they owned it for 14 years. And then it was sold to Melling. Melling was looking for another company to bring in. And so we were part of Melling for another 14 years. And then Mark Melling decided that he needed to have an opportunity with another General Motors contract, which was huge for them. So they needed to find the cash to do that. And they put their best one up for sale, which was us. And my old partner that originally hired me from Philadelphia saw it was for sale, and he called me up and he said, are you still there? I said, well, I'm on the phone, I guess. So he said, well, you want to take another run at this? He said, you've made a lot of money for a lot of people, and it's time you make money for yourself. And so if you want to take another run at it, I'll give you a chunk of the company, and we'll run at it.
Yeah.
So now it's 10 years later since that time.
Yeah.
And so at the moment, actually the last 10 years, I've been trying to diversify more. And so with that diversification becomes powertrain.
Yeah.
And so I believe the powertrain for us, we had great capabilities of bushings, and the bushings were a real problem for the transmission guys. So I said, we need to transition from just cam bearings into bushings. So we have a company that does valve seats as well, and we have a unique product with it, with valve seats. That's powder metal valve seats, and that's our OE use, but no one in the aftermarket has powder metal valve seats except for us.
Yeah.
So everything we have is American made, American sourced, American made in Carson City, Nevada. We ship worldwide around the world to all this. We have a large market share in cam bearings, a smaller market share, much smaller in transmission, but we're looking to grow that significantly. And the interesting thing on the transmission side of things, as we found out that you need to have tight tolerances like we have in bushings, and there's got to be a great shaft with a great finish on it, and then the bushings hold it all. And so that's a way of making that product a whole lot better for the transmission market.
Yeah.
And so we're heavily into that. Our mix is typically about half in rebuilders and half in distribution. Okay. And so that makes a good balance for the product lines. And we have some great relationships. We have great relationships with Melling for some of the reps that we use, and they do a fabulous job for us. We do a lot of international business as well. So it's a great business. It's been a great career for me personally, and I have a great team of people. I brought along with me Thomas Teal, who's our chief engineer and new product manager. And so I have a great team that supports efforts. Yeah. We have 70 employees. Employees make everything happen. And I make a point every week to at least go out at least once or twice a week. And I go to each and every employee that we have, and I thank them personally for their contribution. Yeah. Because without their contribution, we have nothing.
No, that's great. That's great. No, that's all well said. It definitely takes the right team to move a company forward, and especially at a time where you guys are expanding and doing more.
Right.
Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcox Media.
Chuck, I want to back you up for a second. You said when you first got into Dura-Bond, it was very singularly focused on the cam bearing business, and there wasn't a ton of customers within that business either. So, what attracted you to the Dura-Bond job the most, and how has that changed as you guys have started to evolve?
What attracted me to Dura-Bond was I could get away with not having a whole lot of bureaucratic things. And all big companies are great, but they have lots of bureaucracy. So I could go there and be an independent and do whatever it needed to be to grow it.
Yeah.
So I bought this company out of Seattle that was the powder metal valve seat company, and we took that worldwide. It was a great first step in diversifying, but it allowed me the ability to expand and do what my entrepreneurial spirits would say we should do.
Yeah.
And that was amazing.
Yeah.
Because it had no confines to it. And that was
That's
a wonderful
awesome.
part of it.
Yeah. A lot of people wish they were able to do that, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so Chuck, you mentioned a few times that powertrain has become, this bigger picture for you guys, and you've expanded from just the cam bearings into bushings as well, and then a bunch of other products. What's changed within Dura-Bond itself in terms of manufacturing to allow for that expansion? What you mentioned the team back there in Carson City, but how about some of the machinery or just the facility in general?
Well, we changed quite a few things in the machinery, put a number of CNC pieces of equipment in place, and changed the product lines. So the interesting thing with powertrain, and particularly on transmission, the transmission's changed about 2 times to every engine, and in a transmission there's 8 to 12 bushings in a transmission, where in an engine there's only 5. So you can see the economies of scale of that is huge opportunity. So we're looking to have that opportunity for those 70 families that we employ and cherish. They're great people that work for us. And now we have to figure out about how to transition on the other side of things. So my basic premises are that everything is block and tackle, ABC. So you do ABC, but then that can mean that you do great hard work and have dedication, but you only know what you know. And so then you have to go to D and get to those people that know everything about everything else. So whether it be what they know about equipment, what they know about marketing, what they know about whatever it may be. And so as part of that, I discovered this piece of it with Babcox.
Yeah, that's our pinwheel there. Yeah.
Your pinwheel.
Yeah.
And it's the same as my peacock that I have.
Yeah.
And so I said, the old school of guys on the road and just doing old school salesmanship, I know that well. But you got to transition from there. And there's virtual things that need to be done. There's all kinds of things that people know much better than us. And for me here today to view the Babcox organization and all the things you do, it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that. Yeah, it's, as an editor and a journalist, the game has changed for us too, right?
Yes.
Print is still the core thing, and what we do well, but we've expanded into all these other avenues, such as video like this.
Right.
And it's been fun. It's an ever-evolving thing, and we appreciate you guys taking notice.
But probably 5 years ago or so, I was talking to your folks about the transmission and powertrain, and I said to them, you guys are in the lead. You guys are the lead dog, and you lead the industry. And so as leading the industry, you have to be able to step up into the other sides of it and into the powertrain side. And so at that time, closely after, you bought Transmission Digest. And so then you became the powertrain folks.
Yeah.
So the powertrain is evolving, and so if you look at the future, I look at it that there's many great companies within all this industry, but there's three lead dogs. There's Jasper, there's LKQ, and there's AER, and those guys are all powertrain driven. And so if you're going to survive in this, you need to be powertrain driven, and that's what we are. So we're powertrain driven, and transmission and in engine, and so that gives us diversity that we can go about building the business, and hopefully building the business for another 75 years for all those employees that we have.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's certainly becoming a bigger focus of the content that we have is that overall powertrain look, because it's not just the engine and not just the transmission anymore.
No.
It's all together. It doesn't work without all those pieces. So.
And as you look at machine shops, they need to transition as well. So a machine shop or a transmission shop, they become limited some by technologies. So they have to transition also. They have to transition to, okay, I have 10 shop bays perhaps. And those 10 shop bays, I can put an engine in, I can put a transmission in, I can do all these things, and I can expand and transition from just being the machine shop in the back to something that does all of it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a hard road for everybody to transition from the bucket that they live in.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so Chuck, as you mentioned, in your almost 30 years at Dura-Bond, you've done a nice job of diversifying the offerings of the company and still maintain that nice market share with the cam bearing business, and now you've had almost a decade in the powertrain stuff with transmission bushings, and you're looking to keep expanding that. So what are some of those things that hope continues at Dura-Bond, and what are a few things that you're looking to move forward in the next few years?
Well, I think the transmission business could probably double our business in the next 10 years, which would be huge. And of course, it's imperative to have a great team. I have a great COO and CFO that works for me and does a great job. I have a great production manager, and then I have Thomas, which is obviously terrific on the engineering side of things. So between that team, they're very adept in trying to figure out how to move things forward. In the production side of things, my production manager is from El Salvador, and we have a pretty good size Latino workforce.
Okay.
And so he's able to communicate with people from Honduras and El Salvador and Nicaragua and Mexico.
Excellent.
And so that makes a great team atmosphere that we can show our appreciation for the culture and identify with the culture, because it's all about the people, and the people make it happen.
Right.
The rest of the things in the offices up front are of substance, but unless you're a good facilitator of finding all those things to make a difference, doesn't happen.
Right, yeah.
It's all about the people.
Absolutely. Chuck, one last question for you, and just kind of looking at the industry as a whole. Again, you've been in this industry for over 50 years. How do you view the health of this industry in terms of, the engine side as well as the transmission side, versus what it was then, what it is now, and what it could be in the near future?
Well, I think that there's been a lot of hype on electric vehicles.
Sure.
But I think that's been a lot of hype. It's been backtracked significantly by people like Ford and Volvo and lots of people that have just, Tesla's done well, but the rest of them have put a lot of money in, politically driven, and now they've determined, geez, this isn't going the way we want it to go. And so as we look at the different aspects of business today, the combustion engine or hybrids look to have at least a good 10-year run for sure, and much more than that. And the reason that is that cars had a peak a number of years ago, and now SUVs and pickups are far beyond that. They're in the $17 million unit categories. So those units will all be recaptured and rebuilt because they're pickup trucks for electricians and plumbers and all kinds of people. I think that the business is still strong. It's still got innovations to go. And I think people that go into the powertrain and go into multi-businesses that will rebuild engines, transmissions, installations will succeed and be very profitable. So I think it's a great business, and it has no time soon that's got a death threat to it, like some politicians might say that it does. It doesn't. So it's a great business, and it'll continue to be a great business if we capture it and keep it going.
Yeah. Well, like you, we certainly enjoy it, and hope it stays healthy for a long time to come. So Chuck, with that, I'll let you open it up if there's anything else that you want to touch on. But if not, really appreciate getting to know a bit more about your background and what you guys have been doing over there at Dura-Bond Bearing, and it's all great stuff. So I thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, I think the only last comment is kind of a repeat, but of critical importance to find partners, and partners that know more than you know. If you stay in your own cubbyhole, you'll only know what you know, and you'll probably not do well. So I was so excited to come here and to speak about this and the peacock effect that you have.
A lot of capabilities,
because you can bring us to a whole new level. And as I worked in some of the things with some of the salespeople, they do a great job, and it's necessary to do that. But doing things with teams is important. Doing things, reaching out to videos and websites, newsletters, direct marketing, sponsorships, things like this are the way of the future. And if you aren't prepared for the way of the future, you'll not survive well. So the message that you have to take to the industries, both engine and transmission, of the capabilities of D people that have knowledge is immense. And people need to understand what you can bring to that market that they're not capable of doing. They just don't have the resources or the knows to do it. So as AI goes forward and other things go forward, you better be connected with someone who understands that and can make it happen. What I've seen here today and what we've gone through, I think you're a key part of the transition to figure out how to make things work in the future.
Yeah. Well, Chuck, we really appreciate those kind words and singing our praises. And it's not possible without partners such as yourself and Dura-Bond. So
it's just a fact.
We appreciate that.
And the facts are the facts. So people need to know that. But until they can see what you do and how you do it, they stay hunkered down in what they know.
Right. Absolutely.
So
well,
thank
Chuck,
you very much.
Again, thank you for your time, and appreciate you being here today.
Yep.
Guys, that's been this episode of Industry Insiders. If you do have questions or want to know more about Chuck Barnett and what they got going on at Dura-Bond Bearing, make sure you leave that stuff down in the comments. And as always, make sure you're checking out enginebuildermag.com for more great engine content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.